Hello everyone. How are you doing? I know many of you are here because you're Game of Thrones fans, and I have some good news for you. Today we're going to talk about the Reyne Rebellion. The Reyne Rebellion is one of the most important events in the history of Westeros, and it's an essential part of the Lannister family's history, one of the most iconic houses in the series. And the best part is that, unlike many other historical events in Game of Thrones, the Reyne Rebellion was actually shown in the series, which means we can discuss it in detail. But before we get into the details of the Reyne Rebellion, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the history of Westeros. Westeros is a fictional continent where the story of Game of Thrones takes place. It's ruled by 7 kingdoms, each led by a noble house. And these noble houses often fight for power and control of the kingdoms, which leads to wars and conflicts. And it's in this scenario that the Reyne Rebellion takes place. House Reyne was one of the most powerful houses in Westeros, and they believed they could challenge the Lannisters, who were the richest and most influential house on the continent at the time. They rebelled against the Lannisters, forming an alliance with other smaller houses that were unhappy with the Lannisters' power. And it was at this moment that Tywin Lannister, father of Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion, decided he could not tolerate this rebellion. He led an army to House Reyne, surrounded the city, and completely destroyed it, killing all members of House Reyne and destroying their lands. It was one of the greatest demonstrations of cruelty and brutality in the history of Westeros, and one that showed the absolute power of the Lannisters. But that wasn't the only consequence of the Reyne Rebellion. It helped shape the personalities of Tywin Lannister and his children, and influenced many of the events that would follow in the history of Westeros. So, now that you have an idea of what the Reyne Rebellion was, let's delve a little deeper into the details of this epic conflict. The history of the Reyne Rebellion. Well folks, now that we have an overview of what the Reyne Rebellion was, let's dive into the history of this epic Game of Thrones event. The history of the Reyne Rebellion begins with House Reyne, one of the most powerful houses in Westeros. They believed they could challenge the Lannisters, who at the time were the richest and most influential house on the continent. So, House Reyne decided to rebel against the Lannisters, forming an alliance with other smaller houses that were dissatisfied with the Lannisters' power. Tywin Lannister, the father of Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion, led an army against House Reyne, besieged the city, and completely destroyed it, killing all members of House Reyne and destroying their lands. It was a demonstration of cruelty and brutality that left a permanent mark on the history of Westeros. But why did Tywin Lannister decide to take such extreme action against House Reyne? Well, there are several theories. Some people believe Tywin wanted to send a clear message to any house that dared to challenge the Lannisters, while others think he wanted to show his absolute power over Westeros. Regardless of Tywin's reasons, the Reyne Rebellion had a significant impact on the history of Game of Thrones. It helped shape the personality of Tywin Lannister and his children and influenced many of the events that would follow in the history of Westeros. For example, the Reyne Rebellion was one of the reasons why Tywin Lannister insisted that his children succeed in everything they did. He wanted to ensure that House Lannister would always be on top and that there would never be another rebellion like that of House Reyne. The Reyne Rebellion also helped shape the personality of Cersei Lannister. She grew up hearing stories about her father's cruelty against House Reyne, and these stories influenced her own behavior throughout the series. Cersei became an ambitious and manipulative character who would do anything to maintain her family's power. The Reyne Rebellion was also mentioned several times in the series, and it is believed to have influenced some of the events we saw. For example, when Robb Stark rebelled against the Lannisters in the War of the Five Kings, many people noticed similarities between his rebellion and that of House Reyne. This may have been an intentional reference by the writers of Game of Thrones. Well folks, that was a brief history of the Reyne Rebellion. I hope you enjoyed learning a little more about this epic Game of Thrones event. And if you want to know more about the history of Westeros, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I'll continue to share many curiosities about this incredible series. Consequences of the Reyne Rebellion. Hey guys! Let's talk about the consequences that the Reyne Rebellion had in Game of Thrones. As we know, this rebellion marked the history of Westeros and had a great impact on the relationships between houses and the events that would follow. One of the most obvious consequences of the Reyne Rebellion was the complete destruction of House Reyne. All of its members were killed, and their lands were devastated. This made House Lannister even more powerful and influential since there were now fewer rival houses to compete with. The rebellion also had a major impact on the personality of Tywin Lannister. He became more cruel and ruthless after destroying House Reyne, and this personality shaped how he governed House Lannister. He insisted that his children be perfect in everything they did, and this had a significant impact on their characters throughout the series. Another consequence of the Reyne Rebellion was that it helped strengthen the relationships between the houses in the west of Westeros. After seeing what Tywin Lannister was capable of doing to those who challenged him, many smaller houses decided it was better to maintain a good relationship with the Lannisters than to challenge them. The Reyne Rebellion also had a significant impact on the personality of Cersei Lannister. As mentioned, she grew up hearing stories about her father's cruelty towards House Reyne, and this influenced her own behavior throughout the series. She became an ambitious and manipulative character who would do anything to maintain her family's power. Additionally, the Reyne Rebellion may have influenced some of the events we saw in the series. For example, when Robb Stark rebelled against the Lannisters in the War of the Five Kings, many people noticed similarities between his rebellion and that of House Reyne. This may have been an intentional reference by the Game of Thrones writers. Another consequence of the Reyne Rebellion was that it helped establish House Lannister as the richest and most powerful house in Westeros. After destroying House Reyne, the Lannisters became even richer and more influential, allowing them to have a significant impact on many of the events that would follow in the series. Well, guys, those were some of the consequences of the Reyne Rebellion. As we can see, this epic event had a major impact on the history of Game of Thrones and influenced many of the events that would follow. If you want to learn more about the history of Westeros, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I will continue to share many curiosities about this incredible series. Curiosities about the Reyne Rebellion. Hey guys! After talking about the history and consequences of the Reyne Rebellion in Game of Thrones, now it's time to share some curiosities about this epic event. Let's go! 1. The Reyne Rebellion was one of the largest revolts in Westeros before the War of the Five Kings. Although it was a relatively small battle, the impact it had on the relationships between the houses was huge. 2. The motto of House Reyne was the Storm of Castamere, which became significant in the history of Game of Thrones. During Robb Stark and Talisa Maegor's wedding, the band played the Rains of Castamere as a signal for the Stark massacre. 3. The Reyne Rebellion was first mentioned in Episode 3 of Season 3, titled Walk of Punishment. Tywin Lannister tells the story of the rebellion to his son Tyrion while skinning a deer. 4. The Reyne Rebellion may have been inspired by real historical events. There are many parallels between the Reyne Rebellion and the Irish Ferry Rebellion, which occurred in 1579. Both revolts involved noble houses challenging their rulers and ended with brutal repression. 5. The Reyne Rebellion is mentioned in many songs and music in Game of Thrones. In addition to the Rains of Castamere, which we already mentioned, there is also the song The Bear and the Maiden Fair, which talks about Lord Reyne's capture by Tywin Lannister. 6. Although the Reyne Rebellion was mentioned several times in the series, it was never shown in detail. Viewers only saw some flashbacks and heard Tywin Lannister talk about the battle. 7. The Reyne Rebellion is also mentioned in many of George R.R. Martin's books. In fact, it is often mentioned as an example of how House Lannister became so powerful and influential in Westeros. 8. The name Reyne may have been inspired by the French word reine, which means queen. This may have been a reference to the fact that House Reyne was ruled by a strong and powerful woman, Ellen Reyne. Well, guys, those were some curiosities about the Reyne Rebellion in Game of Thrones. I hope you enjoyed learning more about this epic event that had a great impact on the history of Westeros. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more curiosities and analysis about this incredible series. Conclusion. Well, folks, we've come to the end of another video about Game of Thrones. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Reyne Rebellion and had fun with the interesting facts and humorous comments I shared with you. The Reyne Rebellion was an important event in the history of Westeros and had a significant impact on the relationships between noble houses. The battle itself may have been relatively small, but its consequences were enormous and shaped the future of many characters in Game of Thrones. It's interesting to think about how the Reyne Rebellion may have been inspired by real historical events, such as the Ferry Rebellion in Ireland, and how these events can influence the creation of fictional stories like Game of Thrones. And of course, we can't forget the songs and music that were created in honor of the Reyne Rebellion, including the Rains of Castamere and The Bear and the Maiden Fair. It's amazing how pop culture can influence music and vice versa. Anyway, I hope this video was informative and fun for you, and that you enjoyed learning more about the Reyne Rebellion in Game of Thrones. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave your comments and suggestions for future topics. See you next time.
If you liked the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll stay here until next time.